Pokémon Next Generation Fanfiction Season 1 Episode 16. Created by Marcus J. Anthony. Narrated by Roach. After a long day helping Go's family protect Cerise Laboratory, Marc, Rachel, and Anthony were invited to stay the night. Marc and Anthony shared a room with bunk beds, both eager for some much-needed rest. Marc in particular knew he needed to be fully rested. Tomorrow, he would be facing Sergeant Sarah at the Vermilion City Gym for his next big challenge. The night passed peacefully until Marc was suddenly awoken by a sharp whack on the head. Grookey, with his mischievous grin, had struck Marc with its stick. The loud yell caused Anthony to jolt out of bed, falling from the top bunk with a thud. Grookey broke into uncontrollable laughter at the chaos it had caused. Rachel, hearing the commotion, quickly popped her head in. She blushed, noticing Anthony was still in his underwear, and hurriedly told them that breakfast was ready before quickly retreating. Once in the dining room, Marc and Anthony sat down with Go, Chloe, and Professor Cerise. Go asked Marc if he was ready for Sarah, knowing that Marc had already earned 2 badges. He mentioned that Sarah would likely propose a 3-on-3 battle, and Marc felt a surge of excitement. He planned to use his newly evolved Graveler, but he was still considering which other 2 Pokémon to bring. Marc was thrilled when Go and Chloe mentioned they would be coming to the gym to watch the battle. Professor Cerise reminded Go that the SSN would be docking that evening on its way to Cinnabar Island, where Go hoped to learn more about Mew and its mysterious connection to the island. Rachel also mentioned that she and the boys would be boarding the SSN as well, where she would compete in her next Pokémon contest. The trio eagerly anticipated the trip to Cinnabar Island with Go, and Marc secretly hoped he might encounter Go's friend, the mystical Mew, during the journey. After breakfast, Marc, Anthony, and Rachel said their farewells to Professor Cerise and his team before heading to the Vermilion City Gym with Go and Chloe. Upon arriving at the gym, they were greeted by Visquez, the stand-in gym leader who had stepped in whenever Sarah was unavailable. She revealed that Sarah had been taking on challengers tirelessly every day, and it had been a while since Visquez had to step in. Visquez was worried Sarah might be overworking herself. They entered the gym's lobby where a large statue of Lieutenant Surge stood in tribute to the former gym leader of Vermilion City. Standing before the monument was a Raichu, its ears and tail torn, and its eye bearing a scar. The wounds were remnants of the Pokémon War 3 years ago. At that moment, Go's Raichu, ever energetic, popped out of its Pokeball and dashed towards Surge's Raichu. The 2 Pokémon embraced each other fondly, their bond evident as they shared a joyful reunion. Just then, Sarah entered the lobby. Surge's Raichu leapt towards her in excitement, clearly thrilled to see the daughter of its late trainer. Raichu started making sounds to Sarah, and she responded.
Raichu, no, you can't battle for me. I've selected the perfect team to face Marc. You can cheer me on with the others.
Raichu looked visibly disappointed, and Visquez sighed. Sarah turned to Go, thanking him again for his courageous act of jumping in between her and Sandslash. Go was about to say something, but then he glanced up at the statue of Surge, then remained quiet. Sarah approached Marc.
When we met back at Johto, you were a timid boy, but I see a spark in your eyes. I knew this day would come when you would challenge me at my gym, but I won't be going easy on you, Marc.
I wouldn't expect it any other way, Marc said excitedly. The group entered the battle arena. Marc handed his Pokemon egg to Rachel to look after during the battle. She then joined Anthony, Go, and Chloe at the seating area. Visquez said that she would be the referee, and announced that it would indeed be a 3-on-3 battle, with only Marc allowed to make substitutions. Tension and excitement were thick in the air as Marc and Sarah stared at one another across the room. Sarah tossed a Pokeball, and out came a mean-looking Voltorb, rolling around the battlefield with great speed. Marc tossed a Love Ball, and Ray the Pichu popped out. This made Sarah smile.
I was meant to tell you yesterday, Marc, that it was fitting that I gave you my father's red gloves he wore as a rookie trainer. And now you have a Pichu, his very first Pokemon.
Sarah glanced up at her father's Raichu. Both looked down with teary eyes. I wear them with honor, Marc said, and then the battle began. Ray started the match with a quick attack, but the opposing Pokemon barely flinched, seemingly unfazed. Voltorb rolled and used Rollout. She shook her head, trying to regain her focus, clearly feeling the impact of the hit. Mark called out to Ray to use Thunderbolt as she charged up her electric power, cheeks sparking. Ray released a fierce jolt towards Voltorb. The electricity zapped Voltorb, causing it to wince from the supercharged hit. Voltorb countered with Light Screen, creating a shimmering barrier of light around itself to reduce the damage from Ray's future special attacks. Determined, she charged forward with another quick attack, hoping to get around Voltorb's defenses. She landed a solid hit, but Voltorb retaliated with Swift, pelting her with rapid hits. Ray cried out, but stood her ground, now visibly worn, but still filled with fighting spirit. Voltorb switched tactics and used Charge Beam, hitting Ray directly while the move boosted Voltorb's special attack, making its electric moves even more dangerous. Mark called for Attract, and the onlookers gasped. Chloe called out and said Voltorb was a genderless Pokemon, which made it immune to Attract. The hesitation caused Ray to be struck by another Charge Beam. Mark knew Ray needed to end this quickly and called for another Thunderbolt. Despite the light screen, Ray channeled everything she had, sending an intense surge of electricity at Voltorb. The light screen absorbed some of the blow, but the sheer power behind Ray's attack broke through, striking Voltorb with a critical hit and leaving it momentarily stunned. Seizing the opportunity, Mark commanded one last quick attack. Ray dashed forward with all her remaining speed that sent Voltorb skidding across the field. It struggled to rise, but ultimately collapsed. Fainted. Sarah smiled, clearly impressed with both Mark and Ray as she returned Voltorb to its Pokeball. The onlookers exchanged curious glances, wondering why Mark wasn't taking advantage of the opportunity to switch out Pokemon. They were baffled by his decision to keep Ray in the battle, but Mark smirked, as if he had a plan. Sarah tossed another Pokeball, and out came a striking Jolteon, howling at Ray, intimidating her. Mark called for Volt Switch, but Sarah ordered Jolteon to use Dig. Mark's plan was foiled, and Ray was hit with a super effective move, knocking her out of battle. Mark was fallen under the pressure. His ideas haven't been working as well as he thought. Before he could return Ray, Go's Raichu appeared. She handed Ray an Oranberry, picked her up, and brought her to the seating area to watch the rest of the battle. Mark then brought out Rocco the Graveler, who quickly rolled to Mark with affection, knocking him over in the process. Mark helped Rocco focus, and it turned its attention to Jolteon. Jolteon darted forward to open with Sand Attack that struck Rocco in the eyes. Jolteon followed up with a double kick. Rocco grunted, taking the hits but barely budging, its rugged body built to withstand physical attacks. In response, Mark commanded Rocco to use Iron Defense. Jolteon used Dig, disappearing underground in a flash. Suddenly, Jolteon burst from the ground beneath him, landing a solid hit. Rocco stumbled slightly. Mark saw his chance and called for a Bulldoze. Rocco stomped the ground with force, creating a shockwave that rippled across the field. Jolteon yelped as it was caught in the powerful ground-type move, causing considerable damage. Jolteon recovered and attempted another Sand Attack, hoping to lower Rocco's accuracy even more. Rocco shook off the dust, though his vision was now even more impaired. Mark urged him to use Rollout. The first attempt missed, but Rocco gained momentum, spinning back around with increased speed. Rocco's Rollout connected, sending Jolteon tumbling back from the impact. Jolteon staggered, struggling to keep its footing, clearly feeling the weight of Rocco's relentless assault. With one last burst effort, Jolteon attempted double kick again, but Rocco's boosted defense absorbed the blows. Rocco then used Rock Throw that struck with precision, landing Jolteon skidding back until it finally lay still, unable to battle. Sarah began to sweat, though she was exhilarated. She hadn't faced a challenge like this in a long time. She brought out her ace Pokemon, Electabuzz, who stared down Rocco. However, Mark returned his Graveler to give it a good rest. He sent out Charlie, and Sarah was excited to battle with his special starter Pokemon. Sarah recounted the time she traveled from Johto to Kanto with Mark and his family. All Mark did was talk about getting his Charmander, and now she facing off against it was a surreal moment for Sarah. She felt like a proud big sister. Electabuzz quickly started the match by using Thunder Punch, hitting Charlie directly. Mark quickly instructed Charlie to use Ember, but the damage was minor. Electabuzz grinned, barely phased, and went on the defensive with Protect, creating a barrier that deflected Charlie's next Ember. Marc decided to shift tactics, calling for Dragon Breath. Charlie unleashed a blue fire which crashed against Electabuzz as its Protect faded. The attack's power took Electabuzz by surprise, giving Charlie a momentary edge. However, Electabuzz retaliated with Brick Break. Its powerful fist came down on Charlie, hitting her with a strong, precise blow. She stumbled back, clearly hurt but refusing to give in. Feeling a surge of determination, Charlie conjured a swirling fire spin, surrounding Electabuzz in a vortex of flames. Marc cheered as Charlie discovered this new move mid-battle, impressed by her tenacity. Electabuzz, however, wasn't done yet. With a roar, it unleashed Thunderbolt, striking Charlie. Shaken but not defeated, she managed a Metal Claw, slashing at Electabuzz, but it barely did any damage. Electabuzz smirked before hitting Charlie with a direct Thunder Punch from its left hand, then immediately striking her with Brick Break with its right. Charlie was knocked out and unable to battle. Marc praised Charlie before returning her, and Sarah mentioned she was very impressed with their bond. Marc took a deep breath and sent out Rocco, who was refreshed from his short rest. A glint of hope shined in Marc's eyes as he seen Electabuzz still affected by Fire Spin Vortex. Electabuzz opened with a Brick Break, its powerful fist slamming against Rocco's rocky surface, and he flinched back. Marc called for Bulldoze. Rocco stomped the ground, sending a shockwave towards Electabuzz, who staggered from the intense ground move. The Fire Spin flames flickered around Electabuzz, adding to its fatigue as it struggled to regain its footing. Not backing down, Electabuzz retaliated with a quick Protect, anticipating Rocco's next move and blocking a powerful rock throw. Electabuzz used the moment to charge forward, delivering another Brick Break with renewed force. This time, Rocco staggered, the repeated attacks beginning to wear on him. Marc commanded Rocco to use Iron Defense. Rocco seemed nearly impervious as Electabuzz went in for another Brick Break, its fist hitting with diminished effect. Rocco barely flinched. Electabuzz, now visibly frustrated and still partially trapped by the fading Fire Spin, attempted a final push. It used Thunderbolt to strike the battlefield that distracted Rocco, its Iron Defense lowering. Electabuzz then struck Rocco with a powerful Brick Break. With a command from Marc, Rocco unleashed Rollout, sending Electabuzz skidding back. Rocco spun around and charged again, each rollout hit gaining power. Rocco crashed into Electabuzz with immense force, sending it sprawling across the battlefield. Electabuzz struggled to rise, but ultimately collapsed, defeated! Rocco stood victorious, breathing heavily but triumphant. Marc jumped with excitement while Sarah exhaled in relief, returning Electabuzz with a smile. With that, Sarah handed Marc the Thunder Badge. Charlie popped out of her Pokeball and Ray dove over to join them. Rocco scooped up Marc as if he was his prize, and the four of them celebrated their hard-fought victory. Marc was then congratulated by Rachel, Anthony, and Chloe. Go approached him grinning.
"You remind me so much of Ash!"
he said, and Marc struggled to hold back tears. It was the greatest compliment he could ever receive. Visquez and Surge's Raichu approached Sarah, offering comforting smiles. Sarah looked at Raichu and apologized for never allowing it to battle since the Pokémon War. After losing her father, she had never been able to bring herself to adopt Raichu as her own Pokémon, fearing it might get hurt under her care. Raichu meant the world to her. It had been a part of her entire life. But after facing Marc, Sarah realized that there was a world out there filled with powerful trainers, and she was determined to beat them all. Sarah asked Raichu if it wanted to go on a journey with her, and Raichu eagerly agreed. Sarah turned to Visquez, who gave her a knowing look. Visquez promised the gym would be in good hands until Sarah does decide to come back. Later that evening, Sarah and Chloe said farewell to Marc, Anthony, Rachel, and Go as they prepared to board the SSN 2.0. Chloe wished Rachel well in her upcoming Pokemon contest, promising that when she entered the Kanto Grand Festival, Chloe would be there to cheer her on. Sarah approached Rachel and handed her a Thunderstone, offering it as a gift for her Eevee if she wanted to try evolving it. Rachel presented the Thunderstone to Eevee, who sniffed it curiously. However, her reaction was the same as when she'd been offered the Water Stone. Eevee rejected it, and then went back to Chloe's Eevee to say goodbye. Ray then said her goodbyes to the two Raichu, who seemed very fond of her. Sarah nodded to Anthony.
Your friends will always be there for you, no matter what.
She turned to Marc, thanking him for the amazing battle, and handing him the Thunderstone as a parting gesture. Marc smiled. After I win the Indigo Plateau, I'll return your father's training gloves. He then thanked Sarah. If I hadn't met you, my old anxious mindset would have stopped me from becoming a trainer. The trio were ready to begin their next adventure, though Ghost seemed distracted, staring at the winter night sky. It was as if something or someone was troubling his mind. Please. No, Master! Please! No!
Why did you spare me? You have uses for me.
My life is yours, my lord.
And like all the rest of them, my life is for you, almighty, all-powerful MewZ. I was created as a weapon, but now all will kneel to me.
All hail MewZ! All hail MewZ! All hail MewZ! All hail MewZ! All hail MewZ!
And now it is time to hunt for legend.